What up, everyone? It's your boy Red Hawk. It is Wednesday, April 29, 2026 at 2:15 in the afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit about another segment of my past. This is going to focus more towards my biological father and my stepmother. I gotta say, today though, it's a terrific day. I went for a run this morning and watched a 1993 rendition of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness novel, which was the main inspiration for the 1979 Vietnam War movie Apocalypse Now, which happens to be one of my favorites. Heart of Darkness pretty much talked about the depths of the human psyche and how impure evil can take over one's brain, which affects the body and soul in turn. That being said, I'm going to tie a good deal of things that I learned from Heart of Darkness to my biological father and my stepmother and what I went through being under their tyranny. Notice I said tyranny, not care. I'm going to start with my biological father. He was born in September 1965. I don't know what went on to with his mind, but I just gotta say it wasn't a very pleasant childhood for him. I'm not gonna go into further details about what went on and what warped his mind into being such a tormented, broken, and three quarters evil kind of person that he is now. Spoiler alert, the end doesn't look really good for him. He's now blind in one eye. If I recall from my last conversation with him, he's blind in either eye. I'm not. I am not. I am not well well versed in which eye it was, but it's one eye, and that was all from the complications he had with the diabetes. Throughout the years, I only had two conversations with him. Those occurred from last year. After my last conversation, that was it. I told one of my uncles I wasn't ever gonna talk to him anymore. That's it. So much BS, so much bollocks, so much anger, so much toxicity had occurred between me and him to ever have a meaningful relation as father and son. That's why I even refer to him as biological dad in the first place. Because he is just that, a sperm donor. Nothing else. Although, I'm going to have to talk about a little bit of a tragedy behind him. Getting to know him a little bit further when I was a teenager, from 7th grade in David Starr Jordan Middle School, Burbank, to 8th grade in Christopher Columbus Middle School, Canoga Park, to 9th grade to junior year in Reseda High School, and then senior year in Coolidge High School, Coolidge, Arizona. He's a bit of a tragic figure. He revealed to me that he always wanted to become a fighter pilot. He wanted to go to the Philippine Air Force Academy and eventually fly the F-5 Tiger II fighter jets that the Islander Air Force used to fly around the 80s, which was pretty much around the time Top Gun was released in theaters. Long story short, Bio Dad never became an Air Force pilot. But he still wanted to serve in the military through any other means. And so he enlisted in the United States Navy in 1996 at the tender age of 31. He went on to serve aboard two destroyers, one in Norfolk, Virginia, and the other in San Diego, California, as a gas turbine systems technician, or GSM. The problem was, there was a nightmare that started regarding him and my mother's divorce. He met a pastor, some Italian American named Morrison C. or something like that. And my grandmother would always scold my biological dad regarding this pastor, calling this pastor Morris Siraulo, with Siraulo being Tagalog for broken head, which is a mockery on the pastor's last name. Yes, I am sighing several times throughout this video because of the many traumas that I encountered under my dad's tyranny. But I am going to be as transparent as I could be without ever getting extremely angry about reliving some of the stuff that I experienced as I sat in a VIP seat witnessing his mental and moral decay throughout the years. Yes, this is a long pause because I am also going to talk about a good deal of what I went through under my stepmother, which was his second wife. The second wife was born in a provincial area in the Philippines. I don't know which island or state she was at, but she also had a good deal of a traumatic childhood. My stepmother, her parents would only offer her rice with salt, and that was her dinner. Meat in the provinces, meat and veggies come as luxury in the provinces, which she didn't come across very much of. She also told me a little bit about the time when a good number of her college roommates made a mockery of her and basically told her to drink through a 2-liter bottle of Coke with a pacifier, signifying a baby's bottle. I think that was one of the things that broke her when she was younger. And so she seemingly turned towards devout religious worship of Christ through her own twisted means. One time, as she was ironing her clothes in our little apartment in Canoga Park, she would mention that every time she tried to sing some pop or rock and roll songs, her head would ache. Ever since then, every time she caught wind of me listening to bands like U2 or Green Day, Avenged Sevenfold, or Metallica, she would label them as demons music, which pretty much insulted the living bejesus out of me. Because I am a very big pop rock person, as well as punk rock and a little bit of metal. And I didn't like that specifically. There was also this time when I declared to both my dad and stepmom that I was going to go to the Naval Academy because I couldn't figure anything else out to basically go to college and become a military officer. I didn't even know if I had the balls to even go for officer candidate school or ROTC. All I know for sure that West Point, Naval Academy, Merchant Marine Academy, Air Force Academy, and Coast Guard Academy all offer free rides for bachelor's degrees towards midshipmen and cadet who wish to become officers in the United States military. Long story short, I never went to any of the service academies. These two mocked me when I declared that I was going to go to the Naval Academy and become an and get a degree in aerospace engineering. That was during one of our car rides after a church meeting and party somewhere in Van Nuys under one of our pastors, Mr. Norman, as I'd call him. I even tried to appease Biodad by saying, if I couldn't even go to Annapolis, at least please let me enroll in a law or criminal justice program. Let me become a lawyer. And you know what? He just scoffed and laughed at me, saying that I will never amount to anything in this life. I even told my grandmother about this many years later. And you know what she said? Your dad's an idiot. Yeah, no kidding. I am not gonna go into details for this another instance, but when I screwed up one time in school, my stepmom, you know what she did when I returned home one night? She squeezed a 2-liter bottle of Sunkist orange soda, built up a good deal of fizz, opened up the bottle real quick, and then just splashed orange soda in front of my face. What kind of a woman does that? You tell me, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. Other instances where I just seemed really frustrated about my dad and stepmother's toxicity. Oh yeah. Whenever I screwed up inside the house in Canoga Park, or even in Coolidge, Arizona, you know what my biological dad's threat is every single time? He would deport me back to the Philippines. Well, guess what? Joke's on him. I'm still in America right now, 2026. And guess what? As part of me thinking about being potentially disowned by him, guess what? In 2013, I underwent a legal name change in the court of Pomona in order to adapt a Japanese name that's more suited to me than Reginald Panis Miku. Because of the ongoing grief that I have regarding the childhood and the adolescence that I should have had, I had to do the rightest thing that I could. I adopted the Japanese name Reiji Minato. This is Japanese for governor of the harbor. Reiji, governor, leader, king, or warlord in an essence, and Minato, meaning harbor. This is on top of trying to become as most proficient that I could in Japanese and just learning about the culture. And hopefully one day, just marrying somebody from the land of the rising sun. Because of the toxicity of my stepmother, I tried to tell her one time before I enlisted in the Navy, because of you, I will never marry a Filipina. You messed it all up. You took my father away from my mother. Does a Filipina lady act like that? No, she doesn't. And so, I would rather sacrifice hundreds of hours learning an East Asian language like Japanese, Korean, or Chinese in hopes of marrying an East Asian lady here in America than to be miserable in marriage with a younger clone of a stupid shrew like you. Of course, I didn't say that to my stepmother's face. That was the lengthiest statement that I could have said to her, but I didn't. The last straw the last humiliation that I had was when I was in Navy A School, Aviation AE, Electrician's Mate A School, in Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida, in 2008. All I did was make an innocent phone call to my stepmother and my biological dad. Stepmom and I went into a heated argument. All I can remember from that phone call 18 years ago, vividly remember for that phone call 18 years ago, was that she told me that I must have been talking trash behind her back towards my mother. That was the last humiliation. I then screamed at the top of my lungs during that phone call in one of the pay phones in one of the main lobbies. If you're gonna act like this, if you're gonna keep acting like this, then we are done. I then violently hung up the phone, never to speak to her again. Little did I know, several days later, my dad would burst in total anger towards what I did about disrespecting, quote unquote, my stepmother. Well, guess what? I wish I could have told him that was 8 years of anguish, 8 years of sadness, 8 years of loneliness, 8 years of being, of thinking to myself that I was a total freak throughout my 4 schools, pouring out and unleashing onto her as the most valid fury that I could ever unleash towards her. That was it. I'm going to have more of these kinds of talks, ladies and gentlemen. This is just the beginning. I am not done. I aim to tell all of you that there is more to my ordeal than meets the eye. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for there'll be more surprises, more suspense, more humor even, in the following days, weeks, or months to come from this point on. That being said, I think I said too much. Red Hawk, out. Peace.